There is a specific type of insomnia that has nothing to do with caffeine or screen time. It's the insomnia of calculation. You're lying there, doing the math. You know you get paid on Friday, but today is Tuesday. You have $42 in your checking account. The gas light in your car turned on yesterday. You have a choice. Do you fill the tank to get to work, or do you buy the groceries your kids need for school lunches? If you have felt that knot in your stomach, you are not alone. And you aren't bad with money. You are suffering from a condition that affects 78% of the population. You are suffering from being average. We live in the wealthiest time in human history, yet the data, the hard, undeniable numbers from the Federal Reserve and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, shows that the average person is walking a financial tightrope over a canyon of ruin with absolutely no safety net. Today, we are going to do something uncomfortable. We are going to dissect the financial life of the average person. We are going to look at the income, the spending, the debt, and the psychology that keeps the middle class running on a hamster wheel until the day they die. I'm going to show you the shocking stats, the broken math, and most importantly, the escape hatch.
My name is Bill, and I am obsessed with the gap between what we think we know about money and what the data actually says. If you are tired of generic advice like stop buying lattes and want the raw mathematical truth about why you're broke, hit that subscribe button. I want to start with a concept called the illusory wealth effect. If you walk down a street in a nice suburb, what do you see? You see manicured lawns. You see two SUVs in the driveway, maybe a Tahoe and a BMW. You see Amazon packages on the porch. You see a family that goes to Disney World every year. Your brain looks at that and says success. My brain looks at that and says liability. Because when you peel back the siding of that house and look at the balance sheet, you find a disaster. The average person is essentially a conduit. Money flows in from their employer and it immediately flows out to lenders. They touch the money, but they don't keep it. And the reason isn't always low wages. It's a systemic failure of mathematics and psychology. Let's look at the first pillar of the disaster, the income trap.
The median household income in the United States is currently hovering around $75,000. Now, if you go on Twitter, or X, you'll see people arguing that $75,000 is poverty wages. You'll see others saying it's a fortune. But here's the statistic that matters more than the income number. 56% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense with savings. Let's be precise about what that means. We aren't talking about buying a new TV. We are talking about a blown tire, a root canal, a sick dog. If half the country faces a $1,000 problem, they have to turn to debt to solve it. Why? Is it inflation? Yes, inflation plays a role, but I want to introduce you to Parkinson's law. Originally, C. Northcote Parkinson wrote that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. But in finance, the law is expenses expand to match income. Consider Mike. At 29, he made $45,000, had roommates, drove a used Honda, and felt broke. At 35, he makes $95,000, has a luxury apartment, leases an Audi, eats out 4 times a week, and is still broke. Mike doubled his income, but he also doubled his baseline. He told himself, I work hard, I deserve a nice car. I make 6 figures now, almost. I shouldn't have roommates. This is lifestyle creep. The gap, the distance between income and expense, remained at 0. The average person views a raise as a license to spend, not an opportunity to save. When they get a $5,000 bonus, they think, what can I buy for $5,000? The wealthy person thinks, how much annual income can this $5,000 generate if I buy a dividend stock? Until you break the psychological link between earning more and spending more, you will never escape the average. You will just have nicer stuff while you stress about money. Now we move to the single most destructive financial habit of the modern era, the automobile. The average new car payment is $738 a month. That is the average. If you look at trucks and SUVs, it's closer to $900 or $1,000. And the loan terms? They used to be 36 months, then 48. Now the most common loan term is 72 to 84 months. That is 7 years of debt for a machine that is rusting as you drive it. Let's do the deep math here, because this is where the average person destroys their retirement without even knowing it. Let's take a 25-year-old named Nick. Nick wants to drive a new car. He buys a $40,000 car, puts nothing down, trades in his old beater, and finances it for $738 a month. Every 6 years, he gets bored and trades it in for a new one. He does this until he is 65. He always has a car payment. It is a permanent line item in his budget, just like rent or taxes. Now, let's look at Ben. Ben buys a 5-year-old Toyota for cash. It's boring. It has a scratch on the bumper. Ben takes that $738 a month and puts it into an S&P 500 index fund, assuming a historical average return of 8%. Here's what happens. In year 1, Ben has $9,300 and Nick has a car worth $32,000. In year 10, Ben has $136,000. In year 20, Ben has $430,000. By year 40, when they are both 65, Ben has $2,580,000, $2.5 million. That is the opportunity cost of driving a new car. When you see a $40,000 car on the road, you aren't seeing success. You are seeing $2.5 million of retirement money vanishing into thin air. You might say, but Bill, I need a safe car. I agree. But safety doesn't cost $40,000. Reliability doesn't cost $738 a month. This is signaling theory. We use cars to signal our rank in the hierarchy. But here's the brutal truth. Nobody cares what you drive. You are borrowing money you don't have to impress people you don't like to buy a thing that goes down in value. It is financial suicide.
So, we have Parkinson's law eating our income. We have a car payment eating our future millions. What happens when the water heater breaks? We enter the debt dungeon. Americans hold over $1.13 trillion in credit card debt. The average APR on a credit card right now is over 24%. I want to explain exactly how dangerous 24% is. Einstein famously said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. The average person is paying it. Let's say you have the average balance of $6,000, and let's say you make the minimum payment, which is usually calculated as 1% of the balance plus interest. That's about $170 a month. You might think, I can handle $170. But if you only pay the minimum, it will take you 17 years to pay off that $6,000, and you will pay over $8,000 in interest alone. Total cost, $14,000 for a $6,000 purchase. This is caused by a psychological glitch called hyperbolic discounting. Our brains are wired to value the present much more than the future. A pizza tonight is worth 100 units of happiness. Being debt-free in 5 years is worth, maybe 10 units. Credit card companies have weaponized this. They have decoupled the pain of paying from the pleasure of consumption. If you were carrying credit card debt, listen to me closely. You are in a financial emergency. I don't care if you have a 401k match. I don't care if you want to buy crypto. There is no investment on earth that guarantees a 24% return tax-free. Paying off your debt is the best investment you will ever make.
Now, we have to slaughter a sacred cow. Ask your parents, ask your grandparents, ask your neighbor. What is the best investment you can make? They will all say the same thing. Buy a house. Renting is throwing money away. This is one of the most dangerous half-truths in personal finance. For the average person, a primary residence is not an asset. It is a liability that acts like a piggy bank. Let's look at the unrecoverable costs of owning a home. These are costs that do not build equity. First, property taxes. You never truly own your home. You rent it from the government. Second, maintenance. The 1% rule says you should expect to spend 1% of the home's value every year on repairs. Third, cost of capital, mortgage interest. Fourth, transaction costs.
6% agent fees to sell. Let's look at a standard 30-year mortgage at 7% interest. In the first year of your mortgage, for every payment you make, roughly 83% goes to interest. Only 17% goes to paying down the debt. You are renting money from the bank. But Bill, my house went up in value. Did it? Or did the dollar just go down? Robert Shiller tracked home prices back to 1890. Adjusted for inflation, residential real estate has returned about 0.6% per year over the last century. The S&P 500 has returned about 7.0% per year. The problem with the average person isn't that they buy a house, it's that they become house poor. They buy the maximum amount the bank will lend them. They tie up 80 or 90% of their net worth in one illiquid asset. Buy a house because you want a home. Do not buy it because you think it will make you Warren Buffett. All of these bad decisions, the lifestyle creep, the car payments, the credit card interest, the house poverty, they all lead to one specific day, the day you can no longer work. What does the finish line look like for the average American? Let's look at the people aged 55 to 64. These are people who are 5 years away from retirement. The average savings is $537,000. That sounds okay, right? But average is skewed by the billionaires. We need to look at the median, the 50th percentile. The median 60-year-old American has $87,000 saved for retirement. Let's apply the 4% rule. 4% of $87,000 is $3,480 per year. That is $290 per month. $290 a month. That doesn't cover groceries. It barely covers the electric bill and the internet. This means the vast majority of Americans are heading toward a retirement where they are solely dependent on Social Security. The average Social Security check is about $1,900. Can you live on $2,200 a month when you're 75, when you need prescriptions, when you need care? The tragedy is that this was preventable. It wasn't preventable by winning the lottery. It was preventable by starting early and letting compound interest do the heavy lifting. The average person waits. They say, I'll invest when I have more money. But by then, the math is broken. You cannot catch up to 20 years of lost compounding. Okay, that was the autopsy. It was grim, it was bloody. But you are still here. You are watching this video, which means you still have time. Here is the anti-average framework. Step 1 is the 20% gap. You cannot budget your way to wealth by cutting Netflix. You have to go for the jugular. You need a gap between your income and your expenses of 20%. How? The big three: housing, transportation, food. Drive the ugly R, get a roommate, meal prep. You need to be ruthless for 2 years to be free for 20. Step 2 is automate the pain. We established that your brain is wired to fail, so remove willpower from the equation. You need to set up an automated wealth architecture. On the first, your paycheck hits. On the second, automatic transfers fire off. 10% to 401k, 10% to Roth IRA/brokerage, and the rest to bills. You force yourself to be cash poor. Step 3 is the 2x rule for spending. If you want a luxury item, you have to be able to afford it twice. If the phone costs $1,000, you have to invest $1,000 into your brokerage account first. Step 4 is be the lazy investor. The average investor underperforms the market because of emotional trading. Buy a low-cost total market index fund. Set it to auto-buy, delete the app. Boredom is the friend of the wealthy. I want to leave you with one thought. The entire modern economy is engineered to extract wealth from you. The algorithms on your phone, the layout of the grocery store, the financing offers at the car dealership, they are all designed by PhDs in behavioral psychology with one goal: to transfer money from your pocket to theirs. Being normal means losing that game. Being average means working until you break. To win, you have to be willing to look weird. You have to be the guy driving the 2012 Honda Civic when you could afford a Mercedes. You have to be the person who says no to the vacation today so you can say yes to freedom tomorrow. The math is simple. The execution is hard, but the reward is your life. Don't be average. Be the outlier.
If you are ready to start investing but don't know the difference between an ETF and a mutual fund, I have a deep dive video right here that explains the exact 3-fund portfolio I use. I'm Bill. Thanks for watching, and keep building.